What's up, everyone? Welcome to Resist the Algorithm podcast. I am Ryan, and today we have a bunch of topics to go over. First, I just wanted to remind you, if you want to be a part of the conversation, join the Discord or follow us wherever we are able to be followed. Links are in the description. My hope for this podcast is that we can have civil discourse and conversations about different topics, not just ideologies or political views or religious affiliations, but also about hobbies and disagreements we have about how to tune our skis, or how best to ride down the road on a road bike, or what the best crochet stitch is. I don't know. I don't care. I just want to talk to you guys. So that's why I'm here. I hope that this community continues to grow, but I am going to continue to be here talking every day at noon, Monday through Friday, Eastern Time. So if you're watching now, if you're watching later, thank you for being here. It really does mean the world to me. First, I want to go over again the traits of a truth seeker and the importance of that. It is really important, I think, especially at this time, for us to have a set of guidelines or a set of guiding principles to help guide conversations whenever we happen to be in any situation where we're talking to someone. I think the most important aspect or trait that someone can have is that they desire to seek truth. They desire to know the truth of a whole matter, and not just have preconceived notions and biases that lead them down the path or lead them to see what they want to see. So, with that being said, I'd been thinking over a couple of weeks about what traits a truth seeker has, and I boiled them down to 5, and they are to have courage. First and foremost, we need to have courage to be able to share our beliefs and share what we think is true, so that way we can have discourse and conversations about them. If we just sit back timidly and have these opinions, but we never say them, it's not benefiting society. Having that rub in society is a good thing, to be able to talk about these things and to be open and explain what we believe. And that leads into the second, to defend your beliefs. If you have beliefs, hopefully they're strong beliefs for you, and hopefully they're something that you can defend and explain with some level of clarity and intellect. And it should be something that you are willing to stake your words on, right? So to have courage to defend your beliefs. The next one is to be challenged. So if we are expecting others to interact with these principles, that means at times, many times, probably we are going to be challenged by other beliefs that rub up against ours, that completely don't work with ours. And it's important for us to allow our beliefs to be challenged for 2 reasons. One, if we are correct, if we have the truth already, other beliefs will reinforce that truth. Other beliefs will tell us that we are correct and we should continue going down that path on believing on that thing. If our belief is weak and we don't have a strong stance on it yet, the second reason is that other beliefs will act as a catalyst for our beliefs to be challenged and for us to change our beliefs to be in line with what the truth of a matter is. Next is really important. In order to have a civil society, I believe that we need to pray for our enemies. Now, if you're not religious, I would encourage you to dive deeper into that. I would encourage you to be challenged and to go look at different types of religious belief systems. But I am a Christian. Christianity doesn't believe in having enemies, but the reality on the ground is that we do have enemies. And we are commanded by God to pray for our enemies. If you can't bring yourself to pray for your enemies, I believe that everyone can agree to have grace for their enemies. And to work towards not having any enemies. I think that would be beneficial for society if we were working towards seeing the other side, putting ourselves in other people's shoes, understanding where they came from. Now, that is not to make an excuse for truly vile and evil things. There is not common ground to be found with certain groups of ideologies and people, but the goal is to have conversations with them so that we can all move closer to truth. And the last, and this is kind of my megaphone cry for not only this podcast, but niched and in life as well. But as we've come into a more digital age, as social media has become more pervasive throughout every one of our lives, as we're being controlled more and more by applications and algorithms and technology, I think it's really important for us to carve out time and to resist the algorithm, to realize that what is coming across our feed is not within our control at all. We don't get to choose what comes across our feed in any way, shape, or form. And that means that there are potentially other actors out there that are trying to control our mentality, control our mind, control our thoughts and our beliefs. And we need to resist with all of our energy and all of our might to not be led down a path blindly. We need to be skeptics. We need to be truth seekers. So those are the 5 traits of being a truth seeker, and I hope those are encouraging for you, but I have been using them the past week or so as a framework. I've been using them for longer than that, but I've kind of put it into a more succinct kind of framework that's really been helping me have conversations with people. So let me know in the comments below if it's something that makes sense or if it doesn't make sense, and if there's anything I missed or anything you'd change. Right on. Let's jump into the first story. Very tragic story coming out of Michigan over the weekend. Very sad events happening. There was a man who attacked a Mormon church while there were people worshiping and practicing their religion. So let's watch this clip from WTO 11 or WTOL 11.
Michigan is rocked by a tragedy, a shooting at a church. This after what the FBI is calling an act of targeted violence on Sunday services, leaving 4 people dead.
Laura Sandlin joins us live from where the incident took place. So, Laura, what do we know at this hour?
Tim, Kaylee, yesterday, the Grand Blanc Township Police Chief identified the suspect as 40-year-old Thomas Jacob Sanford. Hundreds of people were gathered inside of the church yesterday at the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc Township when the violence began late Sunday morning, according to the chief. He said Sanford rammed a pickup truck through the church's front doors, got out, and started shooting before allegedly setting the building on fire. The suspect then fled the church on foot and was pursued by 2 officers, one from the DNR and another from the Grand Blanc Township Police Department. The officers engaged in gunfire with Sanford in the parking lot behind their church, who was shot and killed at the scene. In total, 10 victims were shot, including 2 of the victims and the shooter. It's unclear how the other victims died at this time. Police believe that there still could be additional victims who are trapped inside the building when the fire broke out. He said that one of the wounded people was in critical condition and 7 others were stable.
The entire church has not been cleared because it's a total loss due to the fire. So these first responders right now, they're in recovery mode. They're trying to fight through all the debris from the fire.
Investigators are searching for an exact.
As of yesterday evening, investigators were still working to clear the church, which was described as a total loss. It also remained unclear how many people were unaccounted for. Authorities did not provide any additional details about the suspect, including whether or not he was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, widely known as the Mormon Church. Now, this attack is the latest in a series of shootings at places of worship across the United States. We're going to have more coming up for you in your next half hour, including about what law enforcement believes started the fire and more details coming up after that. Reporting live in Grand Blanc, Laura Sandlin for WTOL 11.
He was fired just 3.
So a really tragic story there. Let's read what Fox News has to say about it. FBI investigating Michigan church shooting as targeted violence. Some worshipers unaccounted for. FBI takes over investigation as authorities search for motive in Grand Blanc Township attack. The FBI is looking into Michigan church shooting and fire incident as of targeted violence. as an incident of targeted violence. Authorities identified ex-Marine Thomas Jacob Sanford, 40, as a suspect who allegedly smashed a pickup truck into the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, opened fire and set the building ablaze during a crowded Sunday service. Police killed Sanford after he allegedly killed at least 4 people and wounded 8. Authorities said he was from the neighboring town of Burton. I can confirm at this time the FBI is now leading the investigation and investigating this as an act of targeted violence. Reuben Coleman, acting special agent in charge of the FBI Detroit field office, said on Sunday. This act of violence has no place in our state or anywhere else in our country. The FBI is committed to continue finding out the facts, circumstances, and motives behind this tragedy, he said. Grand Blanc Township Police Chief William Rain told reporters more victims could be found as searchers made their way through the entire church. One of the wounded people was in critical condition Sunday evening, and 7 others were stable, the Associated Press reported. Sanford's motive is not yet clear. Investigators were searching Sanford's home, but authorities did not say what they found or provide any additional details about him, including whether he was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, widely known as the Mormon Church. All right, so this obviously tragic when anyone is targeted or killed or a gun is pointed at them. It's outside of a war zone. It is tragic. It's even tragic inside of a war zone. Loss of life is tragic, and it's not a thing that we should be seeing in a civilized society. Now, the left is probably going to come out and talk about gun control, as they always do when things like this happen. They're going to blame it on Republicans for not wanting to do a gun control bill. They're going to point their finger at anything they can in the hopes of controlling guns, because the leftist ideology knows that if you can control the weapons and the guns, you can then control the citizenry, because there's no recourse to the government for anything that they choose to do from that point forward. I've talked before how it's going to be impossible to take away the guns of Americans. It's not a feasible task. You would have to use guns to remove them from the homes of law-abiding citizens, and to that end, you wouldn't find them all, because American patriots would take their guns and hide them in places, or claim that they were lost in boating accidents, or move them to a different location. It would take years and years and years, because America would not be willing to give up their rights to firearms. The other thing that I've noticed is the left is starting to shift as well. They're not bringing up gun control as often because they know it's not a winning case, and they know it's going to be a difficult one to legislate. So they realize that it's blustering. They realize it's not as popular as they once thought it was, and they've instead shifted to saying that this only comes out of the right, and that anyone who's doing this is a white supremacist. Now, I'm not sure how you say that the killing of Charlie Kirk, the stabbing of a young Ukrainian woman who was here as a refugee, and the shooting up of a Mormon church in Michigan is out of white supremacy. I'm not sure how you make that story fly. I don't think it's a dog that's going to hunt, essentially, but be prepared, be aware that they're going back to the old adage that you're racist white supremacists if you believe in the country. So one more story about guns that is actually from my neck of the woods here in Pennsylvania, but I found this over the weekend as well, and I thought it was an interesting story, and I just have some questions about it. So, Pennsylvania bus driver accused of carrying a gun while driving kids to school. This is KDKA News reporting. A bus driver in Dauphin County, Pennsylvania was fired and charged after she had a gun on her while driving kids to school, authorities said. The Lower Paxton Township Bureau of Police said in a news release this week that Tanya Hyman of Steelton was charged with 1 count of possessing a weapon on school property in connection with the incident from September 23rd. Police said in the news release that officers were called around 3:45 on September 23rd for a report of a Christ Transportation employee possessing a weapon while on a school bus. A representative of the bus company told law enforcement that the bus driver had the gun while at Central Dauphin Middle School. After an investigation, police said the 39-year-old Hyman had a handgun in a holster on her hip while driving students to school. CBS affiliate WHP reported that Hyman was fired and the gun was safely removed without incident. No students reported seeing the weapon. There were no injuries. So that leads me to believe that she was concealed carrying it. Christ Transportation enforces a strict zero-tolerance policy regarding weapons. Central Dauphin School District Superintendent Eric Turman said in a statement to the television station, all employees are prohibited from possessing any weapon, concealed or otherwise, while performing work-related duties. The driver's employment was terminated in accordance with this policy. He added that the safety and security of students entrusted to our care is and will always remain our highest priority. Hyman is awaiting her preliminary hearing. Okay, so why is this story important? I don't understand, and maybe some of you can comment below your perspective on this. I know I have a perspective. I don't understand why there is a limit to the Second Amendment. It is not written as a limited clause, nor is the First Amendment written as a limited clause. Now, her company has full authority to decide how they run things and to fire her and whatnot, but it said that none of the students saw it. That leads me to believe that she was concealed carrying it, because if you're a bus driver sitting at the front of a bus, anyone who went to public school knows, you walk up those 2 or 3 steps and you're looking right at the bus driver sitting there. So unless it was on her, left hip, which would be rare because that would mean she's a left-handed shooter, not impossible, but rare, more than likely this was concealed. Now, it's important to note, too, in Pennsylvania, it is legal to open carry in Pennsylvania. As soon as you enter a vehicle, it is considered a concealed carry weapon. But because she didn't get charged with unlawfully carrying in general or carrying concealed in general, that leads me to believe that she did have her concealed carry permit. Again, this is all speculation here. I don't know. But since the only charge was having a firearm on school property, that is my assumption here. Maybe more information will come out. But here's my point. Apart from taking it onto a school property, which is not allowed because it is a gun-free zone, she had no other crime. Apart from that, presumably she was safely having the gun in her possession because there wasn't a brandishing charge, there wasn't a intimidation charge or a harassment charge or anything like that, right? So why is it that a law-abiding citizen, other than going onto a school property, which this is I guess the crux of my argument here. Why is that a problem? If you're a law-abiding citizen, you're obeying the law. You do everything you're supposed to do to get your concealed carry permit, which in my view is a detraction from the Second Amendment. It goes against the Second Amendment. I don't think we should have concealed carry laws. I think every state should be a constitution carry state. Meaning that you should be able to conceal carry as long as you are not a felon. I do think that if you are a felon, you lose some rights, or you need to prove that you're rehabilitated in order to regain some of those rights. I think that's perfectly sane and fine. My point is, she was not aiming the gun at anyone. She had not taken the gun anywhere to directly attack someone. There's other charges involved when those things are present. Her only crime was entering an area with a concealed carry gun, presumably with a concealed carry permit that, someone saw. And we're an open carry state. So if she has a concealed carry permit, even if she's open carrying in the car, she's she's within the bounds of the law. We have school shootings all the time, and there's a portion of society who is against having guns in the hands of law-abiding citizens on schools, and that to me is insane. Why would we not want something, or at least someone there to protect our young kids? But This is my point. Every law, every single law on the books is a detriment to law-abiding citizens. What do I mean by that? Every law restricts law-abiding citizens. Laws don't restrict criminals because criminals are willing to break the law. So that means that it doesn't matter what law you put on the books. They're going to go and break whatever law you put on the books if they're intent on doing the crime that they're about to do. All it means then is that when the crime is committed, there's one more charge on their plate. And all it does in the meantime is it stems the ability of law-abiding citizens to exercise their rights. So that's my thoughts on the whole gun thing. That's my thoughts on laws in general. I'm not making a case here for anarchy, right? I'm not making a case for just pure chaos, wild, wild west type of society. That's not what I'm saying. There are merits to laws, but all I'm saying is every single law hinders a law-abiding citizen. It doesn't hinder the criminal because the criminal is willing to break the law. All right, next up, Trump is sending troops into Portland. So I saw this over the weekend as well. Let's see what Ground News highlights this with. So it's mostly the Center reporting. 50% of the stories are coming out of Center outlets. But the Center is saying President Trump authorized the deployment of troops to Portland, Oregon on September 27, 2025 to protect ICE facilities amid ongoing protests. The deployment follows months of protests at local ICE facilities, some involving tear gas, amid the administration's crackdown on undocumented migrants and Antifa's designation as a domestic terrorist group. Local officials, including Governor Tina Kotek and Mayor Keith Wilson, criticized the move, noting no official request for National Guard support and describing it as an unnecessary show of force. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell confirmed that the Department of Defense is prepared to deploy U.S. troops to assist Homeland Security activities in Portland if directed by the president. When Governor Kotek called for calm and expressed her opposition to any such deployment. The troop deployment extends Trump's contentious use of federal forces in domestic affairs, raising concerns about escalating tensions and the impact on civil liberties in Portland. All right, let's see if the left is saying anything different. President Trump announced he'll send troops to Portland, Oregon. Okay. Criticized Keith Wilson and the mayor criticized Trump's decision, stating that there is no national security threat, no need for federal intervention. Legal challenges are expected if Trump sends troops following the recent court ruling that he violated the Posse Comitatus Act by deploying National Guard members. Critics have challenged Trump's characterization of Portland as a war-ravaged, arguing it misrepresents the situation. Okay. Trump linked, so on the right, the only difference here it looks like is that Trump linked crime in Portland to professional agitators, framing it as part of his administration's ongoing focus on immigration and public safety. Okay. So the left latches on to Trump's speech, obviously, about Portland being war-ravaged. He's an exaggerator. He's an entertainer. That's where he came from. That's not to make an excuse for it. There's probably better ways for him to communicate, but he also likes to poke the bear, and he's really good at it. And part of it, I think, is strategy to get them to latch on to things. And frankly, it's a good strategy. The left is being pushed into a corner where they have to go against Trump for being pro-law and order, which is something that he ran on. That's what he was elected for. So most people, I'm sure, are not upset about this. If the mayor and the governor doesn't want national troops to come in to protect a federal building, which is the right of the federal government and the president to do, then they should probably get their state under control and their city under control. Otherwise, Trump has every right to go in and protect the buildings, the ICE buildings and facilities and other federal facilities throughout any state. He doesn't need the permission of a governor to do that. He doesn't need the mayor to invite him in. And he's showing that he's serious about the law and order thing. So I personally don't see a problem with it in this regards. Now, the way he talks about it gives me pause at times, because do I want to see a military state where it's military law throughout the land? No, absolutely not. I will fight against that. I will fight with my dying breath to not have America turn into some third world country or some communist socialist massive camp or something like that. I don't want to have laws in the books where they can just ask for my papers. But what ICE is doing, in my opinion, is not that. ICE is looking for people. Most of what I've heard is it's targeted towards specific people that they are trying to find that are here illegally. And there are agitators that are going to damage the buildings, the federal buildings, the ICE facilities. And it's fully within Trump's right to go and do that. Now, on the question of, is Trump the only exaggerator that's ever been a president? I went to Perplexity. And I asked, can you give me examples of times President Biden spoke in an exaggerated way? This is what Perplexity said. And if you're not familiar with Perplexity, they kind of go out and crawl the internet for different options from different perspectives, and they give a kind of summary of the question you asked. President Biden has a lengthy history of using exaggeration and embellishment in his public remarks. Some notable examples include claims about personal experience, professional credentials, and stories told for emotional effect, which often stretch or go beyond the facts. Biden has recounted, examples of exaggerated stories. Biden has recounted a story about his house almost burning down with his wife inside, dramatically portraying it as a near total loss. In reality, local officials described it as a small kitchen fire controlled within 20 minutes. He has claimed on multiple occasions that he was arrested during civil rights protests or while trying to visit Nelson Mandela in South Africa. Facts have found no record or evidence of these asserts, and he has sometimes retracted or clarified these statements after public scrutiny. In campaigning, he has stated he had visited Iraq and Afghanistan 36 or 38 times, but records show the actual number of visits was lower, his campaign later correcting it to 21. Biden has told dramatic stories, such as a wartime account about his uncle supposedly being eaten by cannibals after a plane crash in New Guinea, that are not supported by official records. He has falsely claimed to have graduated in the top half of his law school class, to have 3 undergraduate degrees, and to have attended law school on a full scholarship, when in fact he did not. Patterns of exaggeration. Biden often prefaces his remarks with, "This is not a joke," or literally, to emphasize serious sincerity. But at times these narratives included demonstrable embellishments for dramatic or emotional effect. Fact checkers have documented occasions where he exaggerated his administration's economic achievements or made misleading statements on topics like the cost of cars or tax policy. These habits reflect Biden's long-standing rhetorical style and storytelling approach, which aims to connect emotionally with audiences, but sometimes results in statements that depart from factual precision. Okay, so my point isn't to crap on Joe Biden. That's not my point here. My point is to say that politicians lie. Politicians embellish. Almost universally, they lie and embellish. Why? I don't get why we're surprised about this. Do we expect these people to be better men and women? We've gotten to a point where most of our politicians have not done anything with their lives. There's very few people that did anything substantial before they entered into office. And a lot of them have been there for decades and decades now. And of course, they're going to embellish what they say. Of course, they're going to exaggerate what they say. Trump had a media empire before this. He was an entertainer. So of course, he's going to exaggerate. Again, that's not making an excuse for it. That's not even saying that it's good. I would much rather our presidents talk to us in plain terms, specifically about the facts. I think that would be much better for society. But we don't have that luxury. And my only point is to say that every politician does this. So I'm going to give Trump a little bit of a pass here. All right. This podcast is sponsored by Niched. Niched is a application. It's a platform that I have created. It's been years in the making. I first had this idea. The start of this idea was about 10 years ago, 10 years plus now. And I have been working on it exclusively over the past 3 years or so. So it's a new type of platform. It is not a social media platform because social media does not like you. Social media, in fact, hates you, and social media sucks. Social media puts ads up in your feed the whole way through so that pretty much everything is an advertisement or a sponsored ad, and it gives you very little of what you want to see. This is done through the algorithm and also then through gatekeepers controlling what you see, and if you're even allowed to be a part of a group to have a conversation about a topic or not. So Niched is different. Niched is the first human interaction platform, and it's totally within your control. My goal is to put the power into your hands to curate your feed so you can have a concierge type of experience online, just like we have the opportunity to do in real life. Now, social media could have done this a long time ago. They could have put filters and functionality into place so that we would have more of a say in our hands. But if they have these types of features, they choose to hide them behind sub menus and in the deep recesses of setting menus so that we can't find them. And they don't make press releases about it. They don't give you alerts when you go on there to tell you about the new feature that they have so that you can have more control. But Niched is all about you. One of the most egregious things about social media, in my opinion, as well, is that we are not provided a way to become the customer. We are not provided a way for our voices to be amplified within the company that creates these social media platforms. So it's a problem that I sought to solve, and I intend to provide levels of subscriptions. There will always be a free subscription level or free account level, but you can create a subscription so that you can have an ad-free experience as well. At the moment, that doesn't exist, but it is in the works, and I'm working my way towards that very quickly. Anyway, Niched is in beta right now. It's all about your interests and your hobbies and what you want to see. You can totally control your feed. You can completely block topics from the feed so that it doesn't come up if you never want to see them. And it's all about you. So if any of that interests you, please go to resistthealgorithm.com to learn more and let me know what you think. Tell me in the comments if you have any ideas. Reach out to me on social media. I am open for ideas and I intend to implement all of the good ones. All right, last news story, and then we will go into our Federalist paper. Over the weekend, there was some new light shed on January 6th. So this is coming from Daily Wire from their Morning Wire report. So the top line, the FBI placed hundreds of plainclothes agents in the crowd around the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. The years-long refusal by the FBI to acknowledge those 274 agents until now has raised many questions about past Bureau leadership. Trump weighed in, saying that this is different from what former FBI Director Chris Wray stated over and over again. Trump lumped in Wray with former FBI Director James Comey as two officials who got caught lying. The president later told NBC News that he would certainly imagine that Wray is being investigated by the Justice Department. FBI Director Kash Patel clarified that the plainclothes agents were sent in against FBI standards after the riot had started for crowd control, and that this was the failure of corrupt leadership that lied to Congress and to the American people about what really happened. Wray is facing numerous questions, even from rank-and-file FBI agents who were present at the Capitol on January 6, 2021. An after-action report revealed to the Congress last week lists of a host of issues that agents have had with FBI leadership. Several agents have expressed concerns that politics had deeply influenced the Bureau's mission over the course of Comey and Wray tenures. Another indictment. Republican Congressman Andy Biggs of Arizona said Wray will be held accountable and pointed to an exchange he had with Wray in 2023. Biggs, I thought I heard you say you didn't know whether there were FBI agents or informants or human sources in the Capitol or in the vicinity on January 6th. Did I misunderstand you? I thought that's what you said. Wray, I referred very specifically to undercover agents. Biggs, and so are you acknowledging then that there were undercover agents? Wray, as I sit here right now, I do not believe there were undercover agents on scene. If it comes to an indictment, some have disputed that plain clothes is synonymous with undercover. Additionally, Wray made it clear that he believed his statements to be true, but stopped short of explicitly stating they were true. This ambiguity underscores that, regardless of the frustration over the FBI, perjury cases are challenging to win convictions in. Yeah, like I said about Comey last week, I mean, we need to hold people accountable. We need to let them know that, at the very least, from a legal apparatus, Congress is going to pressure them to tell the truth. I don't know that we're at a point where we should change perjury laws. I think that opens a whole other can of worms. But that being said, the truth coming out is always a good thing. There's so many things that have been said about January 6th over the years, and especially on the onset, almost none of it seems to be true now. And there's, this whole rewriting history thing kind of going on with it on the one side of the aisle, and also trying to get down to the actual nuts and bolts of what really happened on the other side of the aisle, it seems to me at least. So I think that's good. If you're gonna say something to Congress, it should be true, unless it's classified or an ongoing investigation or something like that. Even that's been used to shield people before too. But I think in most cases, I believe it is a good thing to tell the American people what is going on. All right, next, Federalist paper number 4. We've been going over Federalist Papers over the last couple of episodes. We will continue to do so. I'm going to hit the highlights. I encourage you to go and read the whole thing. So, Federalist number 4, the same subject continued concerning dangers from foreign force and influence. My last paper assigned several reasons why the safety of the people would be best secured by union against the danger it may be exposed to by just causes of war given to other nations. And those reasons show that such causes would not only be more rarely given, but would also be more easily accommodated by a national government than either by the state governments or the proposed little confederacies. But the safety of the people of America against dangers from foreign force depends not only on their forbearing to give just causes of war to other nations, but also on their placing and continuing themselves in such a situation as not to invite hostility or insult. For it need not be observed that there are pretended as well as just causes of war. It is too true, however disgraceful it may be to human nature, that nations in general will make war whenever they have a prospect of getting anything by it. Nay, absolute monarchs will often make war when their nations are to get nothing by it, but for the purposes and objects merely personal, such as thirst for military glory, revenge for personal affronts, ambition, or private compacts, to aggrandize or support their particular families or partisans. These and a variety of other motives which affect only the mind of the sovereign often lead him to engage in wars not sanctified by justice or the voice and interests of his people, but independent of these inducements to war, which are more prevalent in absolute monarchies, but which well deserve our attention. There are others which affect nations as often as kings, and some of them will on examination be found to grow out of our relative situation and circumstances. He then goes on to talk about relationships we have with some different nations at the time, and we get to this point. The people of America are aware that inducements to war may arise out of these circumstances as well as from others not so obvious at present, and that whenever such inducements may find fit time and opportunity for operation, pretenses to color and justify them will not be wanting. Wisely, therefore, do they consider union and a good national government as necessary to put and keep them in such a situation as, instead of inviting war, will tend to repress and discourage it. That situation consists in the best possible state of defense, and necessarily depends on government, the arms, and the resources of the country. So he's saying, wouldn't a strong national government, a larger than confederacies or individual states, strong national government, deter these other countries who are just ambitious from coming and attacking us and starting war? As the safety of the whole is the interest of the whole and cannot be provided for without government, either one or more or many, let us inquire whether one good government is not, relative to the object in question, more competent than any other given number whatever. One government can collect and avail itself of the talents and experience of the ablest men, in whatever part of the Union they may be found. It can move on uniform principles of policy. It can harmonize, assimilate, and protect the several parts and members, and extend the benefit of its foresight and precautions to each. In the formation of treaties, it will regard the interests of the whole and the particular interests of the parts as connected with that of the whole. It can apply the resources and power of the whole to the defense of any particular part, and that more easily and expeditiously than state governments or separate confederacies can possibly do. For what of concert and unity of system? For want of concert and unity of system. It can place the militia under one plan of discipline, and by putting their officers in a proper line of subordination to the chief magistrate will, as it were, consolidate them into one corps and thereby render them more effective than if divided into 13 or into 3 or 4 distinct independent companies. So he's saying the benefit is we can call to arms. We can create treaties on behalf of everyone. We can take a look at who are the most able men among us and call them from every corner of the Union to respond to any threat. And is that not more better? Or is that not better, rather, than having 13 different states and colonies, essentially governments, to do this, or 3 or 4 different, where 2 or 3 states kind of fuse together into one country? Would that not be better if we were attacked as a whole? And in earlier Federalist Papers, he's talking about how similar we are to one another and how it makes sense. All right. And then he concludes with this. But whatever may be our situation, whether firmly united under one national government or split into a number of confederacies, certain it is that foreign nations will know and view it exactly as it is, and they will act towards us accordingly. If they see that our national government is efficient and well administered, our trade prudently regulated, our militia properly organized and disciplined, our resources and finances discreetly managed, our credit reestablished, our people free, contented, and united, they will be much more disposed to cultivate our friendship than to provoke our resentment. If, on the other hand, they find us either destitute of an effectual government, each state doing right or wrong, as to its rulers may see convenient, or split into 3 or 4 independent and probably discordant republics or confederacies, one inclining to Britain, another to France, and a third to Spain, and perhaps played off against each other by the 3. What poor, pitiful figure will America make in their eyes? How liable would she become, not only to their contempt, but to their outrage? And how soon would dear-bought experience proclaim that when a people or family so divided, it never fails to be against themselves? So he's saying, isn't it better that we be together and that they see that we are amazing, that we reestablish our credit, that we are free and content people, that we work together and that we have a well-organized militia and an efficient government? When they look across the ocean and they see that type of people, wouldn't they say to themselves, let's be friends with those guys? I think it would be better for us if we would be friends with those guys, because even back then it was expensive to wage war across a sea. And then he gives the opposite, and he says, would it not be a catastrophe essentially if we were split into 13, or if we were split into 3 or 4, and Britain is allied with one, and France is allied with another, and Spain is allied with a third? And isn't it plausible? Doesn't it even make sense that they would at some point decide to pit us against each other? Well, the Federalist Papers are amazing notes in my mind in the history of the country. Obviously, we know how things turned out. We know what was decided. But it is interesting in my mind to see that these conversations and these fears and these warnings were at the top of mind of some of the most notable people in our country's history at the time. There was concern that we would split and we would fracture and we would be pitted against each other, and that the Revolutionary War, all the blood that was spilled, all the American blood that was spilled to secure this nation, would have been for naught. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. Remember, have courage, defend your beliefs, be challenged, pray for your enemies, and above all, resist the algorithm. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for being here.